After surviving the console wars of the 1990s,
The Bit War veterans are invading your podcast
to bring you gaming intel.
and old tales.
Together, we are your hosts, Max Inventory
And Miao Te Ching, and we are
the Bit War Veterans. It's been a while since we've been on the internet and inside your ears, and
We're still alive, I promise. And it's been a while since Max Inventory and I have been together.
for that I'm sorry, but I was a little busy.
He was busy joining the army and completing all of his basic and advanced training.
We did that, and my first assignment ended up being in South Korea.
And I was lucky enough to be able to join him, so we're both now living here in South Korea.
As you can imagine, there was a lot of life changes that needed to occur, so we really needed the time off to restructure our lives and all of our things and make the journey eastward.
But now we're finally settled in, we have all of our things, and it's time to give you some new content.
But with all that said, let's give you a quick rundown of what we're going to be talking about this episode. So, of course, we're talking about Korean arcades, some of our highlighted games that came out of E3.
We will talk about emulators and this really funny fake NES mini classic that we played here in Korea. And we will also be talking about the Steam Summer Sale. It just finished. What did we buy? And to finish it off, we're going to highlight a couple of tweets from my Twitter account. I asked, what would you be tweeting about if it was 1995?
A couple of tweets from our lively community that's still holding on to us, hoping for some new content, and am I happy to be back. I really am.
One of the first things Max Inventory said when he gave me that phone call and said, we're going to South Korea, was, think of all the arcades.
And we are looking for them, trust me.
So right now, since we've barely been able to spend much time together, he's also been away for training in Korea as well.
There's a lot of training going on here. In fact, I've got another up to 3-week session coming up.
Because of all of the frequent training he does, we haven't had a lot of time to explore very far. For instance, we have yet to travel to Seoul, which is
A few hours away.
a few hours away, but we have had a chance to visit some local arcades, and even that has been pretty cool. I know some places in America, you know, there are no arcades anywhere nearby other than the odd pizza parlor with a couple of pinball machines in the back, right?
Well, the barcade thing is coming back around, and I think that's really cool.
Right, but there's still plenty of areas in America that just there's an arcade drought. And here in South Korea, there is no arcade drought.
Arcades! Where are they? We found a few.
They're all over South Korea. I think the main one we've gone to is called Pink Tiger, and that is downtown Pyeongtaek.
They definitely had a nice combination of new, old, and the unusual.
The first floor of this place was, they had like batting cages, they had archery ranges.
All VR.
Yeah, VR games. And they had a couple of racing games. They were all connected, of course. We did not play those. Then we went up the stairs, and the second floor is where the majority of all the arcade games were.
The good stuff.
The good stuff.
One thing I was looking for was some DDR, and instead we found the popular alternative to DDR called Pump It Up. So instead of the up, down, left, and right arrows, if you haven't seen Pump It Up yet, you actually do the 4 corners and a center button. So, you know, there's a little tweak on it.
Pump It Up was developed by a South Korean company and released here in 1999. Was the first installment of it. So I think South Korea has a lot more Pump It Up, and then like Japan would have their DDR. So this is kind of like, I don't know, their competitor, I guess.
More or less. They definitely have a little pride invested in it from what it seems.
Now, it had, of course, some Korean arcade games that I've never seen before. There are a lot of games in that style where you sit down and you gotta hit the arrows.
Rhythm games.
Yeah, rhythm games. Plenty of rhythm games seemed very popular.
There was even an IIDX ripoff or, tweak where it was really much the same idea. You had a foot pedal, you had your DJ disc, and various buttons to hit rhythmically along with the song playing.
Yeah, it was like DJ Hero ripoff, and it was...
Oh, DJ Hero was a ripoff of Konami's original.
That game was really tough. Even like the really easy levels, we were failing left and right.
It takes a lot of coordination. Long time ago, a friend of mine had imported a controller, and we gave it a shot, and boy, was it... Whew, you got to be able to play Chopin on piano in order to play that friggin' game. One really interesting game, we didn't actually play it, but we sat and watched it, and it basically was a 4-player collection of mini-games, reminiscent of like a WarioWare style, a lot of reaction-based things. And what made us stop and turn is this one mini-game where you control a guy who has to like sit and poop in toilets. Other strange mini-games where you like controlled hands with chopsticks that had to catch food, and you ate and you got fatter.
There was one where you had to pet a cat until it woke up and then loves you.
Bishi Bashi, that was the name.
Yeah, it was a Japanese arcade cabinet, but they had it translated into Korean. And yeah, it was just so strange. Very WarioWare, just ridiculous mini games for up to 4 players.
It was off the wall.
Yeah. We just stood there and watched the demo play all the different mini games, and they were just so fun to watch.
We played a couple of shooters. They had definitely a couple of those. I think 1 or 2 or 3 by Sega.
Yeah, we played, one of them was called Raising Storm.
It was pretty wild.
Right, and you were carrying like a SMG kind of gun and on the rails shooter, very reminiscent of like Time Crisis. And then we also played House of the Dead 4. And you had a Uzi in your hand and you shot at a bunch of zombies.
Of course.
Classic House of the Dead style. So then there were a couple of cabinet shooters, the kinds where you sit down in an enclosure. The one we played was called Dark Escape 4D. We were given 3D glasses to wear, and we both had our own, turret guns, whatever you call them.
Yeah, they were pretty large. You put both hands on them.
Right, and then at certain... so it was like a haunted house zombie kind of a game. And at certain places, zombies and stuff would pop out, and then like all the lights in there would flash, and the seats would shake, and it would blow air on you.
It was a really cool experience.
Yeah, it was really fun. The game was really tough, though.
Yes, it was, and expensive.
And it was expensive. So once we died, we were dead, and we said, okay, we're gonna walk away from this game because it would just eat all of our money.
That reminds me from the time that I got to visit home for a little bit before coming out here. We had gone to a Dave & Buster's, and they had Luigi's Mansion, and a cabinet setup came like that. Didn't have 3D glasses, but it did have...
like the vacuum pack.
The vacuum pack gun, which was really cool, the way this thing would shake. And it was very much like Ghostbusters inspired, where you latch on to the ghost and you shake it around and suck it into your vacuum.
And the vacuums gave you like haptic feedback. Whenever you were trying to suck up a ghost, it kind of felt like a vacuum was running, and then when you got it, it would shake. And I thought that game was extremely fun, and we played it and played it and played it until we beat it.
It was really cool, and there's definitely a lot of little hidden Easter eggs and alternate paths you can activate in that game that unfortunately we didn't get them all for sure, but it was really cool, which I didn't even know existed until we saw it there.
Right, yeah. Like, we were just like, oh my gosh, Luigi's Mansion arcade game?
A good game at Dave & Buster's? Whoa.
Hey, Dave & Buster's is all right.
They're all right. I had never been to one before that.
Another game that was at this Pink Tiger arcade was Mario Kart 2, the arcade game. Now, this is the older version. There's actually a newer version, and that was at another arcade we went to. We will get to that shortly. But if you ever see Mario Kart 2, it has the camera in the front so you could take your picture before you start the race. So one thing the game kind of lacked was, the power sliding. And it just kind of seemed kind of generic in a way. I mean, of course, you have your Mario characters, you got your fun levels, and you got a couple of different power-ups that aren't in any other Mario games.
No, and very limited power-ups as
Very
well. It's only like
limited.
3 or something.
Yes, like, they don't have the mushrooms. You would think they would have mushrooms and stuff, but they don't.
I really don't understand why they decided to change these arcade versions so much. I can understand tweaking it some, but it really is like a whole different game. And every time I've played one, it is kind of a letdown, to be honest.
So Mario Kart 2, I mean, it is fun, but if you see the DX version, which is the newer one, that's the one you really want to play because that one feels more like a Mario Kart. You have power sliding, there's more items, it's more challenging, and it's made by Namco as well, so you could play as Pac-Man. I thought that was kind of cool. And then at the first arcade, Pink Tiger, there were also a couple of other racing games.
A lot of Initial D I see out here.
Initial D, there was another motorcycle one called Speed Rider. There was a sit-down version called Let's Go Jungle, Lost in the Islands.
We actually played that one at a different arcade.
Right. We played that one at a different arcade, just like standing up at a cabinet. But this arcade had like the full, it looks like you're sitting in a Jeep and you're completely enclosed. But it was the same game, just a slightly different experience. And of course, there were a bunch of karaoke rooms because South Korea loves their karaoke. It's called narebang over here. They don't call it karaoke, narebang.
Of course not.
And lots of crane games.
Man, they love these crane games, these sucker games.
I mean, some of the stuffed animals in there were really cute, and I did try a couple times, but I didn't win anything.
Of course. They have these things designed to where the dang claw just... I've never believed the claws are actually tough enough to get items out. And yes, of course, there's plenty of you out there who can do it, but...
We can't.
Or at least we're not willing to pump the money into it. And
right.
For a lot of people, like apparently us, who can't do these very well, for what you put into it, you may as well go buy the dang thing.
Then we left Pink Tiger, and we were just kind of walking around downtown Pyeongtaek. The nightlife in Korea.
Very neon.
It's very neon. There's people out everywhere. Just, people want to just go out and have a good time and party. So the nighttime, the streets are packed full of people just doing stuff, eating food, going on dates, having a good time. There's a lot of street vendors. And we were walking around and we got to another arcade we didn't know existed. This one was much smaller and we didn't spend that much time in it. But it was called Zang Arcade.
They kind of had a repeat of some games, but what they did have was more fighting games there.
Yes.
And a couple of like Neo Geo classics.
Yes, it was 2 stories. The first floor it was mostly crane games on the first floor.
Surprise.
Surprise. They also had, a couple of like the basketball shooting games. They had a couple of like the test your might type games. One where you hit the thing and you got to try to hit the bell. There was another game where you had to punch a punching bag as hard as you could. The arcade had a mascot, like a little teddy bear. It kind of looked like Kon from Bleach.
Yeah, it was funny.
And he was just walking around outside and dancing with people.
Taking pictures.
Right. And then you go up the Pikachu staircase.
Yeah, that was funny.
Most of the other games are upstairs. And there were, Pump It Ups. A couple of different ones up there.
Surprise.
A couple of repeats. But this one had the Mario Kart DX with 4 systems connected. And that's the one that's more fun that you want to play.
But still not quite the Mario Kart arcade experience I wish I could get.
It's close. It's close. It's probably the best you can get right now.
Yeah.
And this arcade had a lot more classics. Like they had a Metal Slug 6, Strikers 1945. They had like Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I don't know which edition, but it was one of the Street Fighter 2 Turbo editions. Bubble Bobble.
And what's nice about these fighting games, they're not the stand-up arcades. You actually sit down.
Right.
Give yourself a rest, and maybe you don't sweat as hard when you play them.
And this one also had like a BB shooting gun game. It was like actual BB gun and a target shooting.
Yeah, it was cool.
So we spent a little bit of time in there walking around and just looking at all the other games. And we just decided to go back and enjoy more of downtown Pyeongtaek at night.
There's a big shopping complex near here called AK Plaza that also had integrated in their movie theater a small little arcade room, but it had some goodies in there, like the, what's it called? Taiko?
Yeah, Taiko Master.
The Taiko drum game. What's that called?
A Taiko Master.
Oh, just Taiko Master?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it's these big, like, traditional Japanese-style drums. You get sticks, and you hit them in rhythm to whatever the song is. The way they mix it up is you either strike the center of the drum hard, or you do a rim shot.
Or you do you got to roll your hits.
Right.
And it's 2 players, so...
It was fun.
Yeah, we were both banging the drums at the same time, doing songs, and it was really fun. Exactly.
That's also where we played that Let's Go Jungle game, which has some... If you could find some videos online, I think it's by Sega, it has some really horror-bad voice acting, but it's like they're self-aware of it, and it's pretty darn funny.
Exotic jungle tour? Are you sure this tour is okay?
We get to see the waterfalls and temples, and they even included lunch.
You don't have to shout. What's that? What are we going to do?
So this arcade in AK Plaza had Dead Storm Pirates, Time Crisis 4.
They had one of I think it's the newest Tekken.
Yeah, and
I'm
they
so
had
out of touch with that series, whatever the newest big tournament Tekken game is.
Crane games, of course, the basketball games, and they also had a couple of Manx Superbike.
Never played that one. I'm not a big bike game guy. Unless we're talking about Road Rash.
They had a Neo Geo and SNK machine.
More fighters, more sit-down fighters.
Mm-hmm. And a couple of Narebong rooms. Hey.
More karaoke for your singing pleasures. However, beware, all the controls are in Korean.
Yeah, we learned that the hard way.
We may or may not have tried.
We got a score of 0.
Definitely.
And of course, lots and lots of claw games. Now, one thing I've noticed when I've been walking around Korea, and they're everywhere. There's little storefronts, and it's unmanned. And there's anywhere between 5 to 10 claw game machines in there, with anything from stuffed animals to toys to
model kits to keys that unlock doors where you could win things like a blender, rice cooker. Seriously, there's even some appliances in there. It's weird.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But even though there's no one there watching, you are being watched on camera.
Cameras are everywhere in South Korea. So then, at AK Plaza, we were walking around some of the lower floors and went into a bookstore that also sold some odds and ends, a little electronics, and we came across a gem.
See, I wanted to go here and I wasn't sure why, even though I was pretty sure all the books were in Korean, and they are. I found some comics I would have liked, but, can't read them. At least not at this point. But that's not what drew me in there. Something else was pulling me in. Subconsciously, instinctively, intuitively. And what we found made our day.
It was a bootleg NES Classic Mini Edition. It was called Entertainment System.
The ripoff.
You turn it on, and it goes to a blue screen that says, 600 games in one?
6 million, I don't know. It had more than Nintendo should have on it, that's for sure.
Right. And as we're going through the menu, first off, I noticed it's not in alphabetical order at all. So it's just the games are on there at random. And then we noticed something weird.
Lots of sequels and games that were never released on Nintendo.
Yeah, like Super Mario 12 and Super Mario 13 and Super Mario 14.
Mortal Kombat. Contra 6.
So we had to play the demos of these games.
So right away, we start booting up some of these questionable sequels. And what we found was absolutely hilarious. These were definitely reskinned hacks of other Nintendo games that didn't make it out here. I think one of them was a Jackie Chan game or something like that.
Right. And it wasn't done very well. Like, the Mario sprite looked like Ninja Mario, and then if you were standing still in some places, it would revert back to the old, the original sprite.
What really cracked me up, we played Contra 6, where you could play such awesome characters as Rambo, Guile, Ryu or Bill?
Yeah. Bill.
This really tickled us, man. We got a good laugh out of this. And then I go to ask, how much do you have one? Can I have one? And of course, they were sold out.
Dang. Just like the NES classics, the actual ones.
There's a shortage going on. And they only wanted something like $40 for it. So
Yeah.
I was so hyped to buy one of these. We are going to go back over the next following weeks and see if they have some new ones in stock. Because this has got to be one of the funniest things I've seen. I remember in Mortal Kombat, I picked like Nightwolf or something, and it was definitely the skin for Shao Kahn.
Yeah.
And on the character select screen, they just had repeats of character icons.
In like slightly different colors.
Right. It's so funny. But there were some genuine deals on there. I checked the Ninja Turtles. The 1, 2, and 3 were all there.
Did they have Quadruple Dragon?
Well, like Double Dragon 2 was genuine deal. So there was a couple of the real deals on there. But for 600 games being on there, I want to know all the bootleg stuff they've got.
One of the Super Mario bootleg ones we played said Super Mario, and then underneath, Kung Fu Mari. And then the sprite for Mario was gigantic.
He was huge.
Yeah.
His head was huge. It was really funny stuff. I can't wait to get my hands on that, and we will definitely flesh that out, probably share tons of pictures on our Twitter.
You can see some video on my Twitter, us playing the different Super Mario bootleg games. And I think I put up some pictures of the bootleg Contra and Mortal Kombat.
Great A stuff. Can't wait to get our hands on one. And with that, let's move right along into talking about emulators. One of our favorite ways to play classic games on your PC to bump up the graphics or get your hands on maybe some titles you never got a chance to play. Although, if you're going to use an emulator, you should only be playing games that you actually own, of course.
Of course, wink,
Of course.
wink, wink. We do not condone illegal activities on this podcast.
One system that's been difficult to emulate that is finally making some really good progress is called the XBX Reloaded, emulating the original Xbox. It's an open source project you can visit at cxbx-reloaded.co.uk, which will take you to the GitHub files, if you've ever used GitHub before, where you could download, I think, an alpha build, and you could also contribute code if you're an ambitious programmer out there. Or, if not, and you're really interested in the project, you can go to Patreon and search Luke Usher, U-S-H-E-R, where you can contribute to allow him to, have the funds to pay for the time and the tools to continue working on this project. And I've wanted to highlight it because from what I've seen coming out of it lately on YouTube, it's the most progress made that I've seen coming from an Xbox emulator. And of course, if you just clunk into YouTube there, CXBX Reloaded, you can see some videos of games that they've got running pretty darn well.
Yeah, people are excited to play like Jet Set Radio.
The Panzer Dragoon games that came out on Xbox.
What about the Halo games?
Classic Halo. To replicate that experience. And maybe you didn't have an Xbox and you just kind of want to get a feel for what it was like. And hopefully there'll be features like in certain other emulators where you can enhance the graphical fidelity of the games and use the modern hardware to kind of smooth out some of the older stuff.
And of course, make mods and hacks for games that you can emulate too. That's always fun.
Similar to this other emulator I wanted to talk about, for the PlayStation 3 called the RPCS3, and you can go to rpcs3.net, where you can learn more about this other open source Sony PlayStation 3 emulator, which I've seen in action again on the YouTube, where you can push the games to even output in 4K. Now, I find that pretty darn interesting.
Wow. I remember way back, people were saying it would be impossible to emulate PS3.
Well, it does have a very interesting, very uniquely designed chip that was a partnership between Sony, IBM, and somebody else I can't remember that has a really unique architecture. So I am a little surprised that they've been able to get this far. They also provide a unique way of being able to pull your games off of your PlayStation 3, more or less put them on an external hard drive and plug that into your computer to be able to play them on this emulator, if you're tech savvy enough to make that happen. And of course, as these emulators get more popular, you'll probably find those dark corners of the web where you can, well, download the files for games that you want to play. In other news of emulators, something that's gaining popularity in the Nintendo Switch community is hacking your Switch.
Uh-oh.
And starting to put emulators on there.
Now, disclosure, don't do this to a Switch you have a lot of games and time invested in, because if you mess up, you could permanently brick your Switch forever.
I bricked an original Xbox once back in the day.
Ooh.
When I won. Which those were great for putting MAME and other emulators onto. I knew people that were buying and selling hacked Xboxes that were full of, classic games. Do you remember that?
I never owned an original Xbox, so I was not a part of that. But how did you end up bricking your Xbox?
I'm not sure. This was a long time ago.
You clicked on the wrong thing, put the wrong file in somewhere.
I just messed up the order of operations or something when I was trying to put the new boot software onto the hard drive. So,
ouch.
But that was like 2004 or something. I barely remember. Maybe 2003, 2002. It was probably like 2002. So,
wow.
For me, that was a long time ago.
I know, and a great loss.
I may or may not have done a little switchola for Walmart or something where I bought another one and removed the stickers.
Well, we're not putting that on the podcast.
I never did those things.
No,
I would never, as a very broke 17-year-old, do something like that.
Don't incriminate yourself on a podcast.
Who's gonna come after me?
The Xbox, please.
Yeah. The Microsoft cops. The micro cops.
So yes, if you're going to tamper with hardware, just make sure that you're doing this on maybe a second system that you own.
Better have some money to burn.
Yeah, be prepared.
And of course, you shouldn't be going online with the system after that.
Of course. Just, never go online, never try to update it.
But anyways, there are people who are making some headways on throwing N64 emulators on there, getting it to work. I think one of the biggest issues is there is some smooth operation of N64 emulator, but they don't have sound yet, and some other bug issues. I'm really hoping to see maybe a GameCube emulator. The question is why? Why do we want to do this to a Nintendo Switch? Well, for one, Nintendo doesn't seem to have the intention to do the Virtual Console program like they used to do with the Wii and Wii U.
And when people want to play games on the Switch, they will find a way to play those games on the Switch.
And instead, Nintendo is eventually going to release that online service. I think this September is what they're aiming for. And they're going to have this little program called Arcade Classics Archive, where they're releasing a bunch of older Nintendo games. However, with a twist where they are adding new features like online playability,
save states,
some smoother graphic operation.
So, I think it'll be worth it, but some people just want their Virtual Console back.
Especially in the palm of their hands.
Right. And I think there's also people who just like to hack things and say,
oh, absolutely.
Hey, I got this to play this. Haha. And I think that opens up avenues for homebrew people as well.
Very interesting concept.
And for people who want to not only just straight emulate games, but to mod emulated games, or there's people who, make their own new levels or new storylines. This also lets people maybe translate a game that only came out in Japan and play it on an emulator. So there's a lot of reasons why people would be interested in this.
Well, and imagine being able to, get a couple of these puppies up and running, and you're playing 4-player Smash Brothers Melee.
Oh yeah, there'd be a lot of people interested in playing Melee on the Switch.
On the Switch.
Oh yeah.
On the big screen or the little screen. So enough with the bootleg and homemade and homebrewed, all that goodness. We're going to move on to some
Real games.
real games.
Some officially licensed stuff. E3. It's just come and gone. And there are so many games that were announced, that were talked about, but we just kind of want to narrow it down into a couple of games that got both of us excited and a couple of games that I think fans of the podcast might want to hear about, a couple games that just really weren't talked about because, everyone's drowning in the news of Last of Us 2, Smash Brothers, Fallout 76. That's what everyone is talking about, right?
Yeah, we're always trying to cover the things that the good old mainstream media don't necessarily talk about.
Things that fall through the cracks or things that maybe fans of retro games might like,
But no matter what, there are still some big events we must talk about. And for me, the first one up that I'm certainly most excited about is Cyberpunk 2077.
Ooh, yeah, that game looks awesome. I will be playing it too.
It's coming at us from CD Projekt Red, the geniuses, the hard-working, hardcore developers who brought us The Witcher 3, and they have been working very hard at this for the last several years. They had a really good presentation trailer. However, the 45 minutes to 1 hour of gameplay was locked behind the private press screening only.
Ooh.
So we didn't get to see any of the game in action per se.
People did talk about it, though.
But they were able to talk about it.
Yes.
And the trailer was good enough for me. Now, this is based off the tabletop game of the same name. Or actually, it's Cyberpunk, and then the years are different for, the progression of the game. What's really unique about this is that the creator of that game is very intimately involved with creation of the video game version, which sometimes you don't always get when you see a book, a film, or a tabletop RPG
get translated into a video game.
There you go.
Right.
But from what I saw and from what I have heard, I am just on the edge of my seat hoping for, but most likely won't get a 2019 release. I wouldn't be surprised if this game was being pushed to 2020, which is fine with me. As they have proven before, CD Projekt Red are perfectionists almost to a fault, which you might laugh at with the amount of bugs that were still in Witcher 3 when it came out. But they fixed those things, and look at all the content that they were able to add to Witcher 3 for free, in addition to their paid content, their paid DLCs being thorough and fantastic and worth the money that you pay. If you don't know much about it, I suggest going to YouTube, as there is so much to cover. I think it's going to be a deep, rich game full of exciting things for us to explore and characters to meet. Cyberpunk 2077 from CD Projekt Red. Check it out.
But I was excited for a title that probably next to no one is excited about or has heard of. It was shown at the PC Expo, and this is a total Miao Te Ching game. It's called 2 Point Hospital. Now, I thought this was kind of interesting because back in April, before I came to South Korea, Max Inventory arrived in South Korea in April, and I came in May. So there was this month of waiting for me. And I downloaded the old Theme Hospital and convinced my computer to run it. And I was really liking Theme Hospital, and I'm like, man, they really need to update this game, do some sort of a remake. And here it is, 2 Point Hospital.
Surprise!
Yeah. From the footage and gameplay footage that we've seen at E3, it looks just like a spiritual successor to Theme Hospital. I mean, everything from how you design the interior of the hospital, patients walking in with ridiculous diseases like unibrow disease and people who are missing heads. And, it looks like the core gameplay is there, but they're building upon it with more medical technology, with more research. It looks like you can have multiple buildings, like you could have a hospital campus. And from the map, it looks like you might even be able to play different areas of the world and maybe have to deal with different medical problems. Because there was like a world map that was shown there. Really interesting. So this is going to be developed by Sega, and it will be out on PC sometime in the fall or winter of 2018. And you know me, if you know me, I'm a huge like building management freak, and this is the exact game I've been looking for, and I'm just so excited that finally we get a real spiritual successor to Theme Hospital.
I hope it delivers, and not to the ER. Speaking of cringe, that presentation also had a really funny little cringe moment where they had these guys dressed up as doctors. Maybe they were doctors, I don't know, come out on the stage, and their mics were not working. They had stethoscopes around their necks, and I think they were busting up with that, so they had to lean into the host's mic to talk. It was pretty funny.
I was disappointed because I really wanted to hear about this game, and like they bombed the entire like first few minutes of it because of the mic troubles, and I was like, no.
It's funny. It's a good watch.
But yeah, tons of E3 cringe.
The next big game I want to talk about, which is also one of the main reasons I bought a PlayStation 4, is Death Stranding.
Woo.
The next title coming to us from the visionary, the creative, the god of video game direction,
The madman himself.
the mad master, Hideo Kojima.
So he's finally free from Konami jail, and he's making his own games now. So I think his creative potential is going to be unleashed with Death Stranding.
And we finally got to see some actual gameplay from this game, too, instead of these trailers hinting at how strange and unique this storyline is.
Right. It seems like every time I'd see a trailer for Death Stranding, I would get more and more confused as to what the game is actually about.
And you get more and more questions. But I think this one actually gave us more to chew on for what is to come. Mm-hmm. I also think a lot of what they showed in terms of gameplay is early on in the video game.
There's a lot of walking and delivering packages and carrying bodies.
Some people made fun of that. There's a lot of walking going on, walking simulator. But you know what? I can show you select clips from Zelda Breath of the Wild or Grand Theft Auto where it looks like all you do is walk. So, you know, let's sit back and see what happens. Because even if you do want to laugh at that, there's no way you can deny that there is a deeply crafted storyline going on with some stellar performances by actors like Norman Reedus, you know, that Boondock Saints and Walking Dead guy, Guillermo del Toro, the director, who was originally working with Hideo Kojima on the newer Silent Hills game that got canned right before Kojima left Konami. Seems he's making a comeback and has probably collaborated with him or continued to in this game. There's even a lot of trails of evidence that these guys are actually continuing or building upon ideas in the story that they were going to implement for that Silent Hills game, which I find very interesting. But let's put it this way. Instead of trying to figure it out here in the podcast or give you all of our insights that will probably be wrong when it comes out,
Right.
I just suggest, if you haven't already, plug Death Stranding into YouTube and you'll come up with a plethora of videos of many different people giving their takes and analysis on the game.
And of course, you know, Kojima always hides the most subtle little secrets in every single trailer.
If you haven't necessarily been a Metal Gear Solid fan, you might be interested in this one. It looks like a very different style of game. And be aware that this man is all about the detail, the devil in the details. I think there's going to be something to go on with I think cloning is going to be brought up into it.
Yeah,
and
like,
there's this whole deal with water. The rain and water seems to affect
the flow of time, yeah.
Yeah, it's called timefall. Things seem to age quickly to the point of birth to death really quickly. And I don't even know how to talk about it. You carry these fetuses along with you, or at least that's part of the gameplay, and you plug them into yourself. And the Norman Reedus character has cesarean section looking scars, like he had a baby inside of him. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. Weird, but cool.
It's Kojima. What do you expect?
It's Kojima.
All right.
So if you haven't already and you want to learn more, please check out Death Stranding. Even if you don't have a PlayStation 4, this may convince you to get one. And just a side note, I got to say, in this current iteration of consoles, I bought a PlayStation 4 because they really do have a lot of killer exclusive games that you really can't get anywhere else that I've been exploring, and I believe Death Stranding will be one of them.
Definitely. And another game that I'm looking forward to for the PlayStation 4, Kingdom Hearts 3.
Finally.
Finally. And they even have a release date on that. And they better not change it, or else I'll be really mad. January 2019.
I hope they stick to it.
Oh my goodness.
You know how Square is.
Oh, shush. Shush, Enix.
Their unofficial motto is, please, give us more time.
Right? Well, they've had enough time to work on this. And they had trailers and gameplay footage at E3. So we got to see some new Disney worlds that are going to be in the next Kingdom Hearts. So we saw like a Toy Story world.
Frozen.
Hercules.
Not Rapunzel. What was it? Tangles. There you go.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Yes, Wreck-It Ralph.
And
Monsters, Inc.
Oh yeah, Monsters, Inc. That was in there too. And, we'll probably revisit maybe a couple of old places. Who knows? But this game, I've been waiting for it for so long. And I'm very excited that it's finally going to be here.
You can find a fair amount of gameplay footage online right now, because they also were featuring this at some other expos leading up to this.
Right.
So I'm getting the sense that this is going to be very grandiose.
Yes, and I think this will still fall in line with most of the Kingdom Hearts games where, yes, it is focused on, kids playing it, of course, because it's Disney. So you could play it through and get to the end fairly easy, but then there'll be like a whole nother like layer or two of gameplay where hardcore RPG fans could just waste all of their lives grinding and trying to unlock everything, and it will be like a completely different, more complex game on top of that for the people who want to tap into that. And I thought Kingdom Hearts as a series was always pretty good with that. Having your basic gameplay for kids or people who are very new to like RPGs, and then having that whole other layer of, like maxing everything out for the hardcore fans.
Well, that's something they did well, is they're accessible and they are fun, even if you do want more of a challenge in your game.
Mm-hmm. People who are new to the series might just not know where to start, but just if you get like those HD remasters and play through those are kind of the essential ones that you need, and that'll get you right up to speed for Kingdom Hearts 3.
Coming January of next year, 2019.
Indeed.
So the other big title that everyone's talking about that I also have to throw in my 2 cents that is also releasing January 2019 is Resident Evil 2 Remake. Wow. I was blown away by this presentation. I had seen and heard rumors of, they're going to do it for years now. And then kind of leading up to, there seemed to be some solid little leaks coming out, but I still actually didn't believe it. And they not only did it, but they blew me away. I am so excited about this. If you have not seen gameplay yet of this game, of Resident Evil 2 Remake, you have got to go search for it now. So it takes all the best parts of Resident Evil 2, kind of mashes it up with Resident Evil 4, and then throws that all into the blender with the engine from Resident Evil 7. And it looks incredible, it looks terrifying, it looks juicy.
Right, and the thing that got me was the zombies look and act more lethal. Like in Resident Evil 2, you could avoid some of these zombie encounters. And in this one, it looks like you don't really have the option to just kind of walk around with slow zombies. They're going to come after you, and they're going to bite you.
Well, this is also due to newer level design, where they have a lot of tight corridors and architecture to the rooms and hallways, as well as a stronger reaction from these zombies when you try and go past them. And that doesn't even include the other creatures in this game. We didn't even feature those, and I can't wait to see them, like hunters and lickers and all the other weirdo things they come up with. It also brings back another little goodie from Resident Evil 4. I don't know if this is in the other ones, 5 or 6, because, dear Lord, I did not play those. I don't care about them. An adaptive difficulty. So the game is going to do its best to adapt to your play style and try and change their approach of how they come at you, making this game and each playthrough for each person slightly different in how the AI enemy interacts with you.
That's interesting.
So far, the voice acting seems to be pretty on point, much better and higher caliber than the original Resident Evil.
Than the original Jill sandwich?
The original Leon. We didn't see any gameplay of Claire, but I imagine it's going to be very similar and hopefully of the same standard. So I'm greatly looking forward to it. Pretty much, I would say those 3 games I've mentioned so far, and I usually don't do this, but I'll probably be buying within the first month of them releasing.
Yeah, it's rare that you pay the full $60 for a game.
I'm a waiter. I can wait usually. I can wait for a good sale. I mean, come on, think about it. There's so many games out there that you can be playing while you wait for something on the back burner for it to come down in price.
Mm-hmm. So another game I'm really excited about is, of course, do I even need to talk about this one? But the new Super Smash Brothers.
We all saw this coming, but I didn't think it would be as epic as it turns out to be.
I almost feel like we don't even need to talk about this one because that's pretty much all Nintendo showed at their conference, their Direct. Okay, now...
True, to be honest, I was a little disappointed we didn't get more from Nintendo, but I thought this was a pretty big deal.
I was hoping for maybe at least one other really big announcement at E3.
Like a little more on this Metroid Prime, this new Prime coming out. But
There was a definite lack of the Metroid Prime, but we did find out there will be a new Mario Party. But Smash. Oh my goodness, they have every single character in any other Smash game, including DLC, returning to this Smash game.
Like Snake.
Wow, yeah, Snake. Cloud, Sonic, Pac-Man, Ryu, like Bayonetta. You have like Toon Link, Young Link, and then like Linky Link. He's back.
Breath of the Wild Link.
He's back and Breath of the Wild styled.
New stages, old stages. And one of our new characters coming is Ridley.
Yes.
Our favorite giant winged demon alien thing from Metroid series.
And, it makes me think, is Nintendo putting Ridley in Smash Brothers because we're going to get a bunch of more Metroid content soon?
I think it's a way to kind of cross-promote it, yeah.
Interesting.
He also seemed to be in high demand as he's a character we've seen in other homebrew hacks of Smash games.
Right, and he has like a cult following, especially in Japan.
Yeah, he's like a demon dinosaur. What's not to love about it?
He's purple, right?
A little touch of that Aliens influence.
They said this is a brand new game engine for Smash. That they've built this engine from the ground up. It's not like they're taking an old engine and tweaking it. They've made an entire new engine for Smash, so this is probably going to have a different feel than a lot of other Smashes.
And they really went out of their way to show the tweaks to the mechanics. Some of them being subtle, some of them being fairly improvements on the quality of gameplay style.
Right, and another big thing is not only do they have almost all of the stages returning, but every single stage will have like the normal stage mode. And then the Omega stage mode. So
so exciting.
So, that's a little bit better for tournaments and balance and things like that.
Also consider the last Smash came out was on the Wii U, which barely pushed enough units out the door worldwide to make the world accessible to it. So now we already have, within like the first year of the Switch being launched, just as many Switches out there, if not more, than there were Wii U's.
For the entire Wii U lifespan.
Exactly.
It's going to have amiibo support. They're going to reprint some of the old Smash Brothers amiibos. So we will see some of the old ones that have disappeared from store shelves coming back in. And there will probably be some new ones too.
New characters introduced as trophy characters or the Pokeballs. There'll be plenty of new Pokemons featured in there.
Right. And, probably some new items.
New Super Smash abilities.
Yeah, new Smash abilities. It seems like almost everyone had a rework or tweak or just a completely new Smash ability.
So for people who skipped out on the Wii U and haven't played a Smash since the Wii, or maybe even the GameCube, this is going to be a big deal.
Yes. And of course, things like 8-player Smash is going to return. And I think with the Switch, 8-player Smash is going to be more fun and accessible. Did you see they're going to re-release like GameCube style controllers for the game?
Definitely will be picking those up.
I will have 2, if not 4, because I love the GameCube controller.
Oh, and I think they'll be great for Mario Kart and other games.
Right, yeah. I hope more games can fully support them, because the GameCube controller's been my favorite controller, and it feels weird to play Smash on anything other than a GameCube controller at this point for me.
And as much as I love the Switch, the little Joy-Cons are kind of funny. The Pro controller for the Switch is amazing, but these, I think, are going to be selling like hotcakes.
Hot cakes. So Smash is a definite buy for me day one. I'll just sink hundreds and hundreds of hours into it. Perfect party game. Perfect couch co-op
Play
game.
online.
You can play online, and I just want to know of all the little... Because, Nintendo really likes to hide secrets in Smash games and things like that. I just want to see all the other little tiny tweaks and Easter eggs they have hidden, because I know there will be a ton.
The last 2 titles I would like to bring to everyone's attention. One of them is coming from the publisher Raw Fury, which you can go to rawfury.com, click on games, and see what they've put out and what's coming soon. If you remember, we talked about them last year, and one of their upcoming titles called The Last Night. This new one coming from Raw Fury is called Sable. And Sable has an amazing looking art style. According to the developers, inspired largely by the French artist Mobius, as well as, the touch of Japanese animation studio Ghibli.
Yeah, the art style looks like a manga or some sort of like futuristic fantasy graphic novel.
Like a living, moving comic.
Indeed. Like everything is kind of cell shaded, but with outlines, highly detailed, with a lot of interesting lighting effects too. It just, kind of almost reminds me a little bit of Journey on PlayStation.
That's what the gameplay reminds me of, too. A lot of exploration-based.
But visually more detailed than Journey.
It looks like a fun adventure, again, discovery, exploration, as you kind of unravel what's going on with the world that they've created here, and probably learning more about the main character as well as the inhabitants of this place. There's not a lot to go on about it right now, but you can check it out on rawfury.com, and from there you could go to the developer's website and even get hooked up with their Twitter account, where they also like to post little updates and GIF images, or GIF images of some of their progress and gameplay.
It's GIF. I don't care what they say. It's GIF.
And one more obscure and highly fascinating looking project that I've got in my pocket from E3 that I don't see a lot of people talking about is called Halibut, like the fish. HaroldHalibut.com you can go to learn more about it. And what we've got here is a fantastic looking adventure game, because all of the characters and sets and props have been handmade, like claymation dolls and diorama type sets, all handcrafted, scanned, and put into the computers.
You sound like such an old 50-year-old man.
I am. Well, I'm a 30-something-year-old man. But hey, handcrafted and put into the computers.
30-year-old boomer.
With a character art and story style that is very reminiscent of, like, you'll be playing through almost like a Wes Anderson game. In fact, I think there is some inspiration from Life Aquatic.
Isle of Dogs.
Fantastic Mr. Fox thing going on here. But it looks beautiful. And what you've got is a nautic adventure where you are a character, what looks like a janitor type character, Harold, and you're part of this spaceship that has crash landed onto an unknown planet made up entirely of water. And you end up helping one of the lead scientists who's there on board to try and figure out how to uncover some of the secrets of your own crashed ship, the world you're on, and find a way to actually relaunch your ship and get out of there and go back home. It looks like a stop-motion film.
And from what I've seen, the voice acting in this game is going to be really good.
Definitely, and I think in the video that they've got right now, they don't have the facial animations finished, but nevertheless, you get a feel for the motion of the game, like you're playing one of the old Oddworld games, or playing through one of those awesome stop-motion films that you all love, like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer cartoons that play around Christmas time.
Yeah.
Or again, Nightmare Before Christmas, Fantastic Mr. Fox, some of the newest things, where we're now blending more computer work with handcrafted dollhouse type sets and characters.
It looks really charming, and they kind of do a little behind the scenes video of how they craft each individual set.
Yeah, you have a great blend of handcrafted as well as digitally enhanced material that really, I feel like you can get a sense of heart and soul, a lot of love and passion poured into the creation of the game, and I hope it does well. It looks fantastic, really fascinating, and again, quirky and whimsical. Really looking forward to that game. Check it out at HaroldHalibut.com, where you can learn more about the game and the team behind it.
Battletoads. Yeah, there's going to be a new Battletoads game. Rare Studios and Dilala Studios are teaming up to make a new Battletoads. We really don't know much about it because there was just a really short teaser trailer at E3, but it will be out on Xbox and Windows 10 and feature a 3-player co-op, and the trailer at least made it sound like it's going to be tough. So hopefully we...
It better be.
Yeah, right? So hopefully we will get to see more of that in the future and really see, is this going to be like the next toughest game? Is this going to be the Dark Souls of Battletoads? Then we have Beyond Good and Evil 2 coming out. Ubisoft is developing this game, and Jade returns in a whole nother storyline. Another game that I think a lot of people will be excited about, since Beyond Good and Evil number 1 it was critically acclaimed, and there's been a lot of fans. It kind of has a cult following, and finally, a million years later, we get a follow-up. And last, we have Jump Force, which will be coming out sometime in 2019. And this is a fighting game that features a bunch of Shonen Jump anime and manga characters. And let's see, the trailer featured Naruto, Goku, who else? Light and Ryuk from Death Note. Was Ichigo in there? I don't remember, but he's probably in there.
Because it was a mishmash.
Right. And I really am excited for this game because way back in the day on the DS, I had an imported version of Jump Ultimate Stars, which was like a 2D fighting game, kind of like Super Smash Brothers, with a bunch of Shonen Jump characters from anime and manga. And you could only get it in Japanese. And it was an extremely detailed fighting game. And if they put as much love and detail from Jump Ultimate Stars into the new Jump Force game, I think it's going to be a hit. And plus, you get to see like Naruto versus Goku. And, there'll probably be a lot of other characters too.
Possibilities are almost endless with this one.
So, those are kind of my big games I'm looking forward to that was shown at E3. I think Max Inventory and I are kind of on the same page with most of these games. So I think it's going to be a really exciting 2019, end of the year 2018 into 2019. And then if things get delayed, a fun 2020.
Oh, definitely, especially when it comes to Death Stranding and Cyberpunk 2077. We're not sure when exactly we're going to see those, but I'm greatly looking forward to them.
You won't see Cyberpunk 2077 until the year 2077.
Probably, and then maybe Star Citizen will finally come out.
Oh, burn.
Now that we've talked about what you want to play in the future, let's talk about what we have been playing. We've just come off the huge Steam summer sale and several months of radio silence from us. What in the heck have we been playing? What did we buy on the Steam summer sale?
Well, on the Steam sale, I bought kind of like 3 main things. First thing I bought was all of the expansion packs for the game City Skylines. Like I mentioned before, I'm a huge building management type game nerd. And
which is playing fantastic on her brand new ultra wide 34-inch, is it, monitor?
Yeah, 34-inch gaming monitor
by LG.
It was my wedding anniversary present. We've been married for 1 year now. Oh my gosh.
Yay.
All right. But City Skylines is kind of like a Sim City type game. And
Much better than SimCity 4 or 5. What's the newest one?
SimCity bullshit. Yeah, so I think this kind of picks up where SimCity dropped the ball with their having to be online, and then I don't know if they retracted that or whatever. I stopped.
I think they did.
Yeah, they eventually retracted
Still, all that
but-
DLC and the DLC for the DLC
Right.
was out of control.
Yeah, so City Skylines definitely picks it up where, the SimCity franchise kind of lost the ball. And the expansions, a couple of them add things like night and day cycles, like cold seasonal cycles and rain cycles. There's an update to the transportation in the game, which is absolutely key to that game. If you have bad traffic flow, your city will eventually shut down. So that game is really heavy about traffic management. And there was another expansion that lets you build bigger parks and even do things like theme parks and amusement parks.
And there's tons of mods available for this game as well.
I usually have the problem of downloading too many mods and assets, and then my game doesn't even start. So, yeah, I always have to go and delete things because I mod that game too much. So speaking of things like transportation management, I got this game called Mini Metro. That
Very minimalist game.
it is an extremely minimalist game. The concept is very simple. And that is, you have to just design a metro system for a city that keeps expanding. And the game looks like a metro map. So, they have the different colored lines and the different, stops and stations. So that's what the game looks like. And different shapes will appear on your map that represent a new station is being built, and then you have to just kind of connect the lines out to the stations, and different people will queue in line for your subway or your train line, and the whole goal of it is to just have a harmonious running station without delays or overcrowding. And it sounds simple, but it's really challenging, especially some of these other levels where you have to take in consideration, building bridges or tunnels out to islands, and you only get a very limited number of that. It's a game that really makes you think and have to plan things out. And I think it's an extremely beautifully done minimalist game. So if you like minimalist design, or maybe you would like to know, what's a good game you could play that does a lot with very little, Mini Metro is the game to play. And then the last game I got on this Steam Summer Sale was Plague Inc. Evolved. And that's a game where you play as a bacteria or a virus or a worm or a fungus or something like that. And it's your job to infect and kill everybody in the world.
World domination.
Yes, world domination through completely killing everybody. And I mean, you have to kill everybody or you lose. The big obstacle in the game is you have to infect people and kill people faster than scientists can research the cure for you.
You get points that allow you to evolve yourself, your virus, your bacteria, whatever it is, so that you can counter scientists creating cures and vaccines, as well as other physical barriers like an island closing their docks.
Right. The game kind of really hinges on, can you infect the people of Greenland fast enough? Because, yeah, that place is hard to infect, and if they survive, then you lose. So I guess the game is really teaching me that if there were a plague or an outbreak, move to Greenland.
Or Madagascar.
Madagascar gets infected easily. Just every now and then you can't get...
They're closer to the mainland.
Yeah. And the cool thing about this game is apparently the developers did so much research into how viruses spread and, populations and things like that, that this game has actually gotten officially recognized by the CDC. And they even use the game as examples for like infection models and things like that. So it can be an extremely realistic possible scenario if, like Ebola 2.0 gets out of hand or something. So, Mr. Max Inventory, what have you been playing in your Steam inventory?
I picked up a couple of goodies. I picked up 2 classic Star Wars RTS games, one being the Empire at War, which I really got wrapped up in dominating the galaxy, and the other was a slightly older one called Galactic Battlegrounds, which kind of had that older, almost Age of Empires type feel to it. 2 excellent Star Wars relics from the past that were able to fulfill my desire for some quality Star Wars content that for some reason the current publishers have not been putting out. A little side note here, we got the most awkward mention of a new Star Wars game ever at E3, where the host sat in the crowd next to the developer of one of their new games coming out and just kind of had this casual, quick little talk about, oh, yeah, we have a new one coming out in development called Star Wars, I don't even remember, The Fallen Jedi or something like that. And it was just so underwhelming and odd. They didn't even have a teaser trailer, nothing. It was just this weird little, like, they threw it in last minute. It was cringy. It was strange.
Yeah, like, there was no details about
Borderline unprofessional.
Yeah, it was weird. But I'd never played Empire at War, but Galactic Battlegrounds was my jam back in the day.
It was fun. The Empire at War, though, has more of the galactic conquest that makes it feel more like you're in the larger Star Wars universe. And there are, speaking of mods, a lot of excellent mods for that, including graphical enhancements all the way to completely flipping it into a Battlestar Galactica game. And there's even Halo mods for it. You could be Covenant versus UNSC. So that game is still a gift that keeps on giving. After that, I started fulfilling my Cyberpunk itch, and I picked up a couple of games, some of them being in the Shadowrun series. If you remember that classic that had come out a long time ago, I had first encountered it, I think, on the Sega Genesis, rented it, and it was probably a little above my head at the time, but I'm definitely old enough to understand it now, its nuances. So I guess nowadays you would compare it to something like XCOM, though this definitely came out before all that, where you kind of have the tactical-based RPG. I've barely scratched the surface of those, and they are fascinating, where you and your enemy take turns moving your characters around the environment and crafting your assault, getting levels, enhancing your attributes and your cyber mods, picking up new weapons, and really interesting story and world that's built there in those games. Another Cyberpunk game I picked up is called Satellite Reign, a little newer. It's similar in the tactical RPG realm, but instead of taking turns in a turn-based combat style, you are moving and reacting in real time. You could split your squad up and have them interact with the environment in different ways, which sometimes you need to in order to have a certain hacker hack the console to open up a door while you move your other guys through. Then, they hack on the other side and let them through. There's stealth elements where you're evading security cameras, drones, soldiers walking the streets and that. And I think it's got a lot of really good potential. Satellite Reign, R-A-I-G-N, that some of you fans of that type of content may be interested in. In addition to the Steam sale, we also picked up quite a few new games, especially since I got a PS4, and we're trying
to play catch up.
to play catch up with a lot of their hit exclusive titles. I've gotten a little past the halfway mark through The Last of Us Remastered, and I gotta say that game has deserved all the praise and acclaim that it's gotten. It's a very, very well done game, amazing story, great characters.
The voice acting is it's some of the best
Superb.
I've ever heard.
Superb.
Like they
voice
really,
acting and writing.
Yeah, they really make these characters seem real. Like so many games fail to do that. And, these people are believable. I feel for them. Another game we've been playing co-op is Dragon Crown Pro.
This is, again, another remaster upgrade of a PlayStation 3 game. I have no idea if it came out on PC or not. But it's a really cool, older style, beat 'em up, but RPG.
Yeah, it's like a side-scroller game. It's got an amazing art style. Like, everything looks like hand-illustrated and then animated on top of that. You know, of course, you could pick all your different fantasy classes. They all play differently. There's tons and tons of loot and special abilities. And, you know, there's kind of the main concept is to go through dungeons after dungeon after dungeon without stopping to get the best loot possible. And the game can be pretty tough.
It can be. It starts off a little easy, and it definitely ramps up as you start going along. The screen can get very busy at times where you're trying to be like, whoa, where's my character? What am I doing? But overall, it's been pretty fun.
And we still have to beat that one. We haven't made it to the end yet.
We got to beat all these games. We were able to pick up for $20. This blew me away. $20. I was able to get Horizon Zero Dawn with the edition with all its DLC, brand new. I was honestly shocked. Actually, the case was labeled as like 30 or 35, and then when it rang up, it was 20, and I was like, ooh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
I feel less guilty about this purchase.
I certainly did. So that's still plastic wrap waiting for us to sink our teeth into.
Mm-hmm. And then I went ahead and downloaded, I downloaded Fortnite on the Switch.
Yeah, just to see what it's all about.
Yeah,
I don't think either one of us are really into the Battle Royale thing.
It's like everyone and their mother and their brothers playing Fortnite right now. And, you know, it was free. It was on the Switch. So I downloaded it to see what the hubbub is about. And so I played it a little bit. I'm not like a super fan or super sold on it. But, you know, the fact that it's free and you could just kind of pick it up and play it every now and then, it's not a bad game. I could see where people really like it.
You could jump in, jump out.
Yeah, exactly. And
sometimes those are, you know, really good for the average person who works a lot, has this busy social life to interact with.
Right, or not. Or some people sink their entire lives into Fortnite, it seems. But yeah, I really like the Battle Royale movie, like the old Japanese one. And I'm like, dude, they need to make a video game out of this. And now, like, the whole Battle Royale genre has taken the world by storm. I'm actually a little bit underwhelmed by the game. But, oh well, whatever, it's free, I tried it.
I will say, it is a dirty deal what PlayStation has done to those who want to play Fortnite on another console. If you created your account on PlayStation
First.
And
then, like, for instance, if you made your account with PlayStation first, and then you said, hey, I want to download this on the Switch, you can't use that same account on another console. PlayStation locks you out.
that is a dirty dog move. And for all the good standing that PlayStation or Sony has been with its fans lately, producing a pretty good piece of hardware, having lots of knockout exclusive titles, they really need to rethink this and spin this PR backwards and open that up. They need to stop this.
Right.
It's a dirty dog move.
Yeah, they've just not been very open with cross-platform gaming for a very long time.
No, and look how Xbox and Nintendo are eating that up right now. They're almost throwing it in Sony's face now with some of the ads they're putting out with the green and red, talking about, hey, you could play all these popular games on either platform. Rocket League and Fortnite and some others. So
But
I think
not
they need to
Sony.
Yeah.
Boo.
They need to jump on this train, or at the very least, just stop the lockout nonsense. And of course, we've been playing the crap out of Super Mario Odyssey.
And I've been trying to slowly trudge my way, I just say trudge, but slowly make my way through Breath of the Wild. Still haven't beaten it.
I don't know how. I got through that game in like the first month it came out. I just played it nonstop. I lived and breathed that thing. That was also before the army, but you know.
Yeah, you have a little bit more time before you join the army, but...
Yeah, even with 2 part-time jobs, you know? Now, normally around this time of the episode, we would be reading off some tweets from our question of the month that we used to pose out before we had to take our little reset on life hiatus. But we do have some of your tweets to read from a very silly question we asked on Meow Teaching's Twitter account.
I asked, pretend you're hanging out on the gamer Twitter, but the year is 1995. What are you tweeting about? And we got a couple of funny answers. So our first one is from Game Boy Guru. And he would be tweeting about how he wishes he could afford to buy a new console, but for now, he'll have to make do with Sega Genesis. Maybe KB Toys will have a sale so I can buy more Sega games on the cheap.
Oh, I remember those days. I didn't get a Super Nintendo until PlayStation was already out.
I remember KB Toys because that was like the closest toy store. Like you had to drive out.
Oh, yeah.
You had to drive out to get to Toys R Us. There was. Do you remember there was Toy Works?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And Toy Works wasn't that bad either.
Yeah, Toy Works was interesting, and now they are no more.
Neither is Toys R Us. None of those.
Nope. Wow, that's real sad.
This is kind of a downer. Mm-hmm. At Zombie Manos said, I'm tweeting about how I don't like sports at all, but I'm still playing NHL 94. He didn't mention what system, though. Instead of NHL 94, maybe you should be playing Mutant League Hockey. Because back then, if I were playing sport games, it was going to be Mutant League Football or Mutant League Hockey.
We have a tweet by CK Kyles? Or is that C. Skiles? Not sure. Sorry about that, Carl. And he'd be tweeting about, why is my 3DO obsolete already?
I wonder if he really had one. But man, that thing was practically obsolete as soon as it came out just because it didn't have the support. It could have been interesting. Man, I remember playing one in Montgomery Ward's on display.
That's another store that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, but no one's really sad about that one. It was that funky fighting game they had that was kind of like their Mortal Kombat, which did not do well.
Another tweet by Yellow Lantern 12. He'd be tweeting something about, man, I love playing MUDs, but honestly, I don't think that this internet thing is going to be that big on gaming. I mean, someone picks up the phone and boom, you lose your game.
Good old days of dial-up.
Oh, yeah. I don't think kids today understand the phrase, get off the internet. I need to use the phone.
That's why you had to have a second phone line just for the internet.
Oh, no. There was no way in my household we were going to put in a second phone line. No.
You just keep using those AOL and Netscape free trial CDs, and you have free internet.
Yeah. We did get this, answering machine thingy installed in our modem. So, if someone called while we were on the internet, you could leave a message. How crazy is that?
Now that's future tech right there.
Right? Then we have another tweet by Antsy007, and they would be tweeting about Chrono Trigger. If it's after the month of March, everyone would be tweeting about Chrono Trigger. Trigger.
Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Twiggle.
I know I would be. I played the heck out of that game, man. At Moldy Clay says, I can't believe Sony is releasing a video game console in 2 months. I doubt that'll last long. It'll always be Nintendo and Sega. Yeah, I definitely had that feeling too, but boy, once they said they got Final Fantasy VII, I was on board. And no, even though I wanted a Sega Saturn so badly, because of Final Fantasy VII, I had to go Sony. And the only reason I got a Sony PlayStation is because I was involved in a car accident and got an insurance payout because it wasn't the driver's fault. And I definitely blew a fair chunk of that on the PlayStation.
We have a tweet by PC Gamer Squid. Just upgraded from Windows 3.1 to Windows 95. Default games are, of course, Solitaire and Minesweeper, but I could also play Doom and SimCity 2000. Also, there's a screensaver called 3D Maze. It's like Doom or Wolf 3D, but with no gameplay. Like a walking simulator. And then there's this new FMV game from Sierra called Phantasmagoria. Can you believe it's on 7 CD-ROMs? Oh, we come such a long way from floppy disks, baby. And also, what about those polygon graphics in the arcades? Will those ever catch on?
Ha! I think those polygons did catch on.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But yes, it was so impressive once we were able to see arcade games on home console. At Ice Cold Killer 8 says the latest arcade game, holy shit, Mortal Kombat 3 is amazing. And he is not wrong. Mortal Kombat 3 and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 were excellent, excellent games.
And to kind of go along with that, Rageful Tomato would be tweeting about how he likes Sub-Zero over Scorpion.
I don't know, man. Scorpion to me always had the, had more cool points. Cool points?
Huh.
Sub-Zero just seemed more chill.
Oh, right. That hurt. Silver Scar Cat would be tweeting about how Descent is better than Doom. What?
Whoa.
You get to fly a spaceship around.
Descent was pretty wild. I remember going to my neighbor's house to play that on his computer.
And he'd also be tweeting about how Super Metroid is awesome. I can't wait for the next one.
Oh, you'll be waiting.
He'll be waiting a long time. And is there a reason to own a Game Boy? Yeah, it's got some good games, but nothing really worth my time.
Well, if you didn't like the Game Boy, they came out with the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance,
The Game Boy Pocket?
the Game Boy DS,
Game Boy DS?
the Game Boy DS,
Now that sounds like some sort of knockoff we might find over here.
the Game Guy, SD.
All right. And then lastly, we have Maverick Cat. Dude, Street Fighter Alpha came out at the arcades? Where's 3?
Oh, I know, right? It boggled my mind then and still does now on how wacky the Street Fighter titles and numbers sequence is. That's what nobody could get that straight. Nobody.
Nope.
Not even Capcom.
And so what if Super NES got Castlevania Dracula X? It's just a downgrade of the superior Japanese release of the Rondo of Blood for the PC Engine Super CD-ROM 2 system.
If you knew that back then, you were hardcore, man.
Yeah, I'm like, that information was like a highly guarded secret, unless you had like the internet and had some sort of Japanese connection.
You're reading Japanese magazines, maybe. I don't know.
And last, Vivi of Brain Dead 13 is hot.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Me neither.
Brain Dead 13 hitting us with that one of them weird, obscure Sega Saturn titles there. But yeah, she was kind of hot in that Roger Rabbit kind of way, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I want to say thank you to everyone on Twitter and everyone who's been listening and sticking through with us. I know we haven't been producing a lot of content lately, but that's going to change now that we're all settled in here in South Korea.
And if you would like to hear more from us, if you're somehow listening to this and not following us on Twitter, if you don't have a Twitter, well, maybe you should try and get one. It could be useful. You can get involved in our community, and there's plenty of other retro gamers and current gamers who like to share content. You could follow news updates from us and other sources. Follow us at BitWarVets.
Or you could follow my personal Twitter at MeowTeching, MEowTeching. And of course, you could listen to this and all of our past podcasts at bitwarveterans.libsyn.com. You could find us on iTunes, Stitcher, or any other podcast player app that you use.
And if you'd like to get in contact with us, you could email us at bitwarveterans@gmail.com.
We love receiving fan mail,
Suggestions, critiques,
ideas for new episodes, or topics you'd like for us to talk about.
And from here out, now that we are settled, we'll be able to be more on our game.
So thank you all for listening.
And if you've made it this far, that means you and we are
Bit War Veterans!